we can center, then we can access other parts of our brain, which are higher consciousness levels, that allows us now to shift our perspective.
Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough. I'm Dr. Debbie Silber, and today's guest is Dr. Victor Manzo. Dr. Vic Manzo is a business and spiritual mindset coach, certified pediatric chiropractor, holistic coach, three-time author, and podcaster. Today we're talking all about your mindset. Do you have some stinking thinking? Could you use an upgrade in the thoughts and beliefs you have? If so, you're going to love this conversation I'm having with Dr. Victor Manzo. Here we go. Okay, everybody, I am here with Victor Manzo today, and we are talking about the mindset of having emotional freedom. Doesn't that sound nice? Welcome, Victor.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Let's just get started with emotional freedom. Tell us what that means.
Ooh, emotional freedom. I love this. It's real simple. It's choosing what you want to experience in something, right? Instead of having this how it should be or the attachment to it or something along those lines, you get to actually choose how you want to respond to that. Rather than, a lot of times in life, we get triggered by things, which are underlying reasons of why that happens. And then we don't feel like we're really in control. We don't really feel like we are choosing what we're having. I'm mad because of XYZ instead of, no, I'm choosing to be mad, or I'm choosing to be happy. I'm choosing joy over this and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to get into the minds of my listeners and viewers, and they're like, choosing? What do you mean? I mean, I've just been betrayed by the person I trusted the most, my family member, my partner, my coworker. This isn't just a choice. This just happened. What do you say to that person?
It's going to be a little tough here. It's one of those things where, how do we see it? What's our perspective? What's the vantage point or the lens? Lens means mindset, like the view that we're looking at it at, right? It can be a betrayal, yes, but what can we learn from that, right? And then if it just happened, we're going to be human. You're going to be human regardless. I'm not going to say you're going to sit in a Zen place and you could just shift perspective and everything's just going to calm. Not when you're in the thick and the mud of stuff, but if you can come from a perspective to understand that there is, when you get to this point, you can ask questions of why is this starting? Why am I experiencing this in my life? In the sense of understanding there's something I need to learn from this, right? Because everything in life, there's nothing bad in life. And some people say, well, this can happen. That's horrible. Well, that's the meaning you're putting on it. We have a choice to choose what things mean to us. Just like a betrayal, we can say it's a betrayal, or I went through this experience, but here's what that meant for me. Here's what it revealed for me. Here's what it showed for me. And this is a different type of mindset or a way to look at things that's different than what we're kind of trained or conditioned to be. Because we want to be like, no, it's that person's fault. They did this. It's all them. I had nothing to do with this. I was the good person here. But in reality, nothing happens to you in life. Everything happens through you. Everything always happens for a greater good of some sort that we need to heal, we need to evolve from, we need to do in some state or mind. So when we're looking at when something like that happened, or it could be anything that shows up in life, there's something that we were part of that process, and we're getting a feedback system, which life, universe, whatever you want to call it, is being like a feedback system to us, showing us, well, here's what happened. Now you have a choice to see it in a different light in that way, or we can play the victim card there, which is not really empowering.
No, not at all. And that's a recipe for symptoms, illness, condition, disease, and more of the same. So I am totally in agreement with you right there. So now for the person who they're in that space of this happened to me. Let's work on mindset and tell us, what does it, from your perspective, what does it take to go from the it happened to me to it happened through me? Because that is the journey right there, to get from one perspective to another. It's not just a flip of a switch. There's, we have to make sense and make meaning out of our experience. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean the simple answer is just to see it from a different light, a different vantage point. Obviously, that's all it is. But obviously, when you're in the moment, it is so hard to do that, right? We've all had some emotions overwhelming us in some way, shape, or form. So what I always like to do is, I'm being a former chiropractor. It's one of the things that I'm huge on nervous system and how the nervous system functions. And what I always recommend when we get into a state of fear, if we go through a dark experience in life, whatever that may be, we have to center the nervous system, because if we don't get to that point, you're accessing part of the part of your brain that's going to be in what's a survival mode, which is old school. It's like going back to being a monkey or a primate, and you're just going to be in pure survival, and nothing good comes out of that. And so one of the things that I always recommend, it's the easiest thing you can do, is just breath work. Now, it may seem easy. Now, every breath work, there's so many of them out there. You can Google breath work, you'll see 15 different ones. I always tell my clients, people I work with, that it's more important to choose what makes you feel better in the sense, because when you start to do breath work, there's a part of your brain that will, it's always monitoring how well you're breathing. And that influences the part of your nervous system called the autonomic. And when we can slow down our breathing, it actually slows down the nervous system, which allows us to center a little bit. And when we can center, then we can access other parts of our brain, which are higher consciousness levels, that allows us now to shift our perspective, to maybe see it in a different light. Because if we're in survival, no, this is the person, this is who did this is why I'm in this situation. That's all survival mechanisms. And all we're going to do is continually creating that. But if we can shift our neurology a little bit, then all of a sudden we can elevate to higher consciousness levels, and that's going to allow us to see it in something different. It's going to allow us to have some introspective views, looking from within. It's going to allow us to, if we're going to make choices, it allows us to see the planning of those choices, how they're going to impact and play a role in our life, and so much more. So breath work is one of them. Another one you can do is,
And you
just
know what?
jump in a
Before you,
cold
I
shower.
just want to dive right in there. First of all, everybody, we have I don't know what the number was, but there was an episode just on breathwork, and within the PBT community, we have master classes. We have at least one or two on breathwork as well. So it's powerful. It's just there are so many different modalities. But if you remember when someone, maybe it was your grandmother, who said just take a deep breath and count to 10, or just do a few deep breaths. There's a reason. There's a reason for it, to calm the nervous system. Okay, keep going.
No, yeah, it literally is. It allows, just even if you feel the pressure and you feel that uncomfortable emotional pain, it just takes that off a little bit, so that you can really just see something and feel like, I'm not going to say it's going to take it away. The more you do this, though, the better you're going to be able to look at this from a different angle, and that's the key. But another way you can do it is jump in cold water or cold shower. That's another easy thing you can do. The reason why is because it puts the brain into a survival state. It can't focus on what you have going on emotionally, because it's like, no, are we under threat? Are we under threat? Do I have to, it's got to change all its reserves, its energy, its blood flow, all this stuff, because like, we're getting hijacked right now. So we need to focus on survival here. And
I'd rather
what
breathe.
happens is,
I think I opt for the breathing. That sounds way more comfortable. Okay, go ahead.
breathing is so much more easier. But the cold water, what it'll do though, is cold shower, cold water is then when you get out of that state, and a couple minutes is all you need. And then all of a sudden it's like, you've ever had fear, or you had something you were worrying about like crazy. And then all of a sudden you find out it wasn't what your worry was, or the fear wasn't as big as you thought. You kind of like go, oh my goodness, thank you. Oh, and you just feel these endorphins starting to kick in. You feel really good now that everything's cleared and nothing was as bad. That's what the cold water does. And it'll allow you just to kind of center a little bit. Again, I mean, there's so many things I can walk down. There's so many different techniques, meditation. You can journal these things out. You can do all these other stuff, connect with nature, hug a tree. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I usually like to go to the first two that are the most simple. Breathing, we have to breathe anyhow. So why don't you just focus on doing a sort of practice? And there's so many out there. Again, you can Google a ton of them. You have the resources you're sharing. And then there's also the cold water is another one that can just help just reset, so that you can refocus a little bit. And then you can start to take that. That's when then you can start to ask those questions like, okay, nothing happens to me, everything happens through me, right? So then from that perspective, you ask questions, you don't expect the answers. Like, don't think you're going to get them at that moment. You may, but I always say, just ask the question. Just, what can I learn from this? Or what am I going to learn from this? Right? Because you're going to learn something about yourself. at the end of the day. That's going to, because everything happens for us. So you're going to learn something that you needed to learn that was ready to heal. Because the brain, even from a brain perspective, it does not go through a healing process unless it has the reserves so you can get through it. They always say God is always going to only give you what you can handle. Well, they found out that there's only, when you're ready to go through a healing process, the reserves are there, so it activates a lot. And I know betrayal and stuff, that's a little different of a story, came out of nowhere sometimes and whatnot, but you're going to have the reserves to handle what's going to show up when you're ready for that.
Mm-hmm. So yes, so it makes total sense. Let's get the nervous system regulated a little bit so that we can think a little more clearly, and then let's move to the mindset, because we need to change that perspective. So one of the most common things after betrayal are these these thoughts, this endless loop where we're trying to figure things out. Why? Most useless question, but we do it in the beginning because we're looking for something. So take us through, why is mindset so important here, and what can we do? Let's say to shift out of just that, I say it at first we're ruminating and then we're just marinating, and which does us no good at all. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so let's define mindset first, because that's a very loose term now. It's being used and it's watered down in so many ways. And really, just mindset is all it is like wearing a certain pair of glasses. How let's say a pair of blue glasses. When you wear blue, all you see is blue. There's no red, there's no green, there's no other color. Same thing for green, same thing for red, and so forth. And so if where we're coming from, intention, what we're feeling at the moment, that's going to create a viewpoint of where we're looking and what we're focusing on. And that is going to take you down a rabbit hole that can be good or bad, depending on where you're coming from, right? So if we're in that victim mentality, if we're in that why me, why this, why that, then that is low vibration. You're just going to keep going downward because your whole viewpoint was that in your mind, because you're dictating what you're looking for. So then your brain has to respond to that and say, okay, we're going to show you, here it is. Here's what you're seeing. This is what we got to follow with. And the other side is true too. Then it's like, well, if I can see this as somewhat being a win, it's going to help benefit me. I'm going to learn something from this. It's going to teach me something. If you can shift that to that perspective, and you have to believe this. You have to know within, like, because you can choose, well, no, I believe this is what it was. Well, then there goes your reality. But if I believe this is what it was, then this is going to be a reality. And that's a belief system, a belief I have, where it's like everything always, and I have science to back this up, but everything always works for the greater good. So, but this is why balancing nervous system is so great, because it gives you that opportunity to look at it from a different angle. And then once you start to see it from that different angle, all of a sudden the brain is going to have to, just like it did for the negative, it's going to have to do it for the positive. If you're truly there, if you're kind of trying to go there and forcing it, but you keep going, you keep seeing all the bad, you're not fully there. And that's where, again, mindfulness type practices like breath work or something along those lines to get you to that point. But once you're in that state to see it in a different element, and you can get yourself to that viewpoint, then all of a sudden the mind's going to have to show you the truth on here's why that's true. Here's the points. Here's this theory. And you'll start to see it. It will show up. Just like it's like, let's say the blue glasses are all the negatives. Well, you're wearing the red glasses. Well, when you see red, all you're going to see is red. It's going to show up into your awareness. I mean, this is basic neuroscience. I mean, there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, and it's all about filtering information that you don't deem valuable. So if you think I'm a victim here, there's going to be very heavy emotions with that. Then all of a sudden you're going to have that value system's going to raise up. So what does the brain have to do? It's going to open the door to show you that. But again, the opposite is true there. And it's all but a choice. And that's why using neurology to your advantage now all of a sudden allows you to make that shift if you are stuck in that one side. Then it's like, hey, we can step aside for a second, take a break here, and then let me look at both and be like, well, which one do I want to experience here? Do I want to keep going down that rabbit hole? How's that going to serve me? Or can I really look at this side and say, can I really choose what I want this to be for me and what it's going to mean? And that's how powerful you are. And to me, that's really emotional freedom, because now you're choosing literally what you want to experience and what you want to get out of this experience, even though it's heavy and it's not going to be fun. And we're going to have the human side of us. But eventually we get through that part a little bit. Then we can start to really say, okay, I'm going to take this in control and have some empowerment here.
Yeah. There are so many things about what you said, like with the blue glasses, it's true. We think that that's just this is all it is because that's what we see. And it really is. It's like walking into a bar and questioning, my gosh, everybody drinks. Well, you're in a bar. Like, what do you think you're going to see? So it's really understanding. You put those glasses on, you could take those glasses off, and like you said, put on the red ones. And the other thing you mentioned was your mind, how your mind does. It looks to confirm, whatever you believe. So if you believe one thing, then you will find confirming evidence to support it. And this is one of the biggest reasons why you hear such amazing things about a gratitude practice. Because the minute you start with this gratitude practice, and listeners and viewers, we have an episode, don't know what the number is, about this too. But when you have a gratitude practice, that's the same sort of thing. Now, if you know you're writing down 3 to 5, 10 things you're grateful for every day. Well, think about it. You want to have 3 to 5 to 10 grateful things to write about. So your mind will actually go looking for it. And you mentioned the reticular activating system, RAS. It's like you're shopping for a car. What's the only car you see on the road once you start shopping for it? That car. Because you're, out of all the things you can be looking at, you are training your mind to look at that one thing. From what you said, I want everybody to realize how powerful your mind is to help you and to hurt you as well. It's really powerful. So are there any like mind hacks? Because I know my dear listeners and viewers are like, okay, this sounds like really hard work. And it is. It's also the most transformative work you'll ever do. What are some, like, as you know, your mind is going down that old painful path, taking them to that same familiar place. Anything you can think of to rewire, change, break those neural connections, rewire new ones that can help them.
Yeah. There, I call it flipping the script, because when we get down to that, I always call it like my stinking thinking that'll come out. Mm-hmm. And when my stinking thinking starts to happen, you can literally, you just halt it. There's I'm going blank here. Law of duality. Or polarity, right? So it means that if you're going down one path, there's an opposite charge to that on the other side. And so when you can get into that framework of understanding that, then you can say, well, I'm going down this route. Here I go. Well, hold on. There's also an opposite to just that. There's an opposite to the kind of experience. And it's just literally saying, well, I again, understanding that what you're choosing is giving power and life to. And when you can get to that premise, then all of a sudden it's just literally saying, well, I can just go this route. But like I was sharing before, again, it's some of the easiest neural hacks is just, again, breathwork is one of the easiest things you can do. I mean, it's so effective and so quick to change. Because again, when we can shift that neurology, it's going to be harder for you, because when you're breathing, you're increasing your vibration and energy into the body, and that's going to elevate consciousness. And when you're able to do that, it makes it harder to go negative. But let's say you're going down that path. One of the things a little hack is not going to be more of a mindset hack. It's more of being aware of how your body feels, but knowing where you feel. Right. Just think. And some people go, I don't understand, feelings. What do you mean? Well, when you think of something you love, that you really, truly love and enjoy, just feel where it shows up in your body. How's your body feel when you feel that? Right. You should feel a little lighter, a little happier. Maybe you want to move a little bit more. You're a little excited. And if you think of something that's hate or something you disgust, you can feel like your body's getting heavier. It's getting like, I always feel like it's like mucky water, slimy, mucky water, just really thick and heavy. When you become aware of those things, then all of a sudden that you can know when you're going down that one route and you're starting to feel that way, hold up, I feel this way. Because you can train your brain, again, to understand, here I go down that path. Not liking this. Let me shift gears. And when you shift gears, it's, again, coming back to what you want to create. And if you can't think of anything on the positive side, do the breath work, do a cold shower, do a gratitude practice. Gratitude practice is another great thing you can use. And then all of a sudden, you start to feel lighter again, you feel more vibrant again, then you choose that path of what it is you want to go down there, the thoughts you want to have, what's the experience you want to have, what are the things you want to follow. Because at the end of the day, it's just, you get to choose in your brain. You're the captain of the ship. You've heard this before. But you literally, from a mind perspective, you are literally the captain of the ship, telling your brain where to go, where to focus, and then it's going to just be your command of what it's going to follow through. So looking at that, these are the most simplest things that I can think of. There are other things I can get way more into depth with, but these are the most simplest things you can do to create some really big changes when it comes to going down that route, how to reset, and then be able to shift gears and look at things in a different angle.
Yeah, great points. And just to add to that a little bit, the body always tells you. The body is always speaking. And think about what we do so often. We get that message, something doesn't feel right, it feels tight, feels constricted, feels closed, murky, as you said. And what do? We let our mind override it. So the body was speaking loud and clear, and we went to that ego mind, or that, just that bratty, I say, it's like a bratty little 10-year-old who's demanding the car keys. And we listen because it's just barking loudly. And when we truly listen to, what's the body saying? Does it feel open, expansive, safe, free? Well, that's a yes, that's a good, that's truth, right? But when it feels tight, closed, constricted, small, what's that telling you? And choose to listen, like you said. Okay, so what does it mean when you say there are no rules to life except the ones you create?
Yeah, this is something, looking at from quantum physics perspective, how you see things is what it's going to be. From a beliefs, what you believe is what your reality is going to be. And when you understand that you literally choose the experience every single day of what you want it to become, like I said, there's no meaning to life except what you put on there, then all of a sudden there are no rules except what you put. And the rules are really your beliefs, what you really believe to be true for you and what you believe to be true in your world. And when you start to look at that, and this is, that's cool statements, but then, like I said, in the quantum physics, they've done studies on consciousness to actually see this, and they've done multiple different types of studies to kind of say, okay, how much does consciousness really, how true is this from a consciousness perspective? And it is. I mean, how you look at something literally is going to show up the way you see it and how you choose to see it, whatever, how for framework you're coming from. And then even neuroscience, we talked about RAS. I mean, it's the same thing again. If you really believe this is true for you and you have a value system to that, then all of a sudden, that's all you're going to see. And so you get to dictate your life and every single element on what matters for you. It's not just in a business or money, it's in relationships, it's in your health. You can do these kind of things and choose, well, this is what this is going to mean for me. And the masters who know this, I mean, the amazing things they can do, because they truly grasp and understand these principles of understanding how, yeah, just like I said, an event like we're sharing about betrayal, right? The betrayal we can look at it in two different ways, but really at the end of the day, how you look at it is what your experience is going to be. You're
Mhm.
choosing and dictating what that's going to be for you. Same thing if it comes to money or a business or a relationship or your health. If you have a health challenge, well, that health challenge can mean two different things to you. Again, it can go down the rabbit hole of bad, or it can go, you can choose that to let empower you and learn, and then you can grow and expand and evolve and let that be something for you rather than be something that is against you, or, again, like going back to that victim mentality.
Mhm. And you mentioned quantum physics. Let's talk about the matrix.
Matrix, yes. So the Matrix, to clarify what the Matrix is, it's another term called, the other term for it is called human collective consciousness. So human collective consciousness, for those listening, is just basically if you average out every single human's consciousness level, when you average it out, that becomes the human collective. And so I use the term a matrix. So when you have the matrix aspect to it, that consciousness level on the average of it all is what creates an experience for all humans to go through. And it's what dictates our world, how we're going, positive or negative, whatever it may be, supporting life or not supporting. This is from the works of Dr. David Hawkins. Power versus Force is the book.
Amazing book.
And he'll talk. Yeah, I love that book. It's a game changer for me. And so he talks a lot about, what supports life and does it. So, but then there's also sub matrices underneath: continents, cities, states, towns, and it comes always down to the individual. But what the matrix does, and we've heard these things before, the law of association, you average the five closest people to you, you average it out, it's kind of like you, or the average of the five incomes around you is average out, it's usually you. Well, the matrix will pull you down into the average unless you're setting your intention every single day. But the matrix also conditions our mind from the subconscious level between the ages 0 and 7, because of our upbringing. Where was humanity at that time? Where was the vibration of humanity? The town you grew up, the city, the parents, all this stuff all has programs that are built into our brain, and then it conditions us in a certain way, shape, or form. So I call this a mental prison, because a lot of times for people, they're like, this is just what shows up in my life. Don't know why. This is how it is. This is what it, and no matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, no matter how much I read, I'm always stuck at this certain level. Well, it's in the subconscious. It's the programming. It's part of the matrix in some way, shape, or form. But I talk a lot about, when it comes to the matrix, you can step out of it. You can take the red pill. There is a way. And it's really just setting your intention and your vibe every single day and making sure you hone on that as best as you possibly can. Because you're never going to be always on your A game. You're never going to be 100%. But it's trying to maintain the vibe as high as you possibly can. And when that happens, then eventually you start to step out more and more, and then you don't go through the experiences of what majority of people go through. Like, for example, like when COVID happened, it seems like it's still happening. So, but when the pandemic first started, why is it that billionaires had a 56% growth in their net worth? It was like over $600 billion they grew. Or you look at the Great Depression, right? Everyone's like, oh, the Great Depression was the worst ever. I agree it was. It was horrible for a lot of people. But guess what? That also created the most millionaires ever in our history in the United States. Mm-hmm. Stepping out of the experience of what others experience is what allows individuals to have a different experience than what the majority goes through.
And that's so true. I mean, even I remember so many people saying, oh my gosh, the COVID-19 and all this loss and all this sickness. And yes, and I'm not minimizing it. I had it more than once. I don't even want to say how many times. And I've lost loved ones and it was horrible. And I cleaned out all my closets, got more into Zoom and FaceTime, and connected with more people than ever. So it truly is. I mean, how are we viewing these things? It has so much to do with us. And I know something like Matrix, you start thinking, ooh, very woo-woo, but it's really not. I mean, think about it. Your thoughts create your actions, which create your reality, right? So this is just on a much broader scale. Everyone's thoughts create, when you add all that, you jumble it together, what does it create? Create something really powerful in our favor or not. Victor, what do you want to make sure everyone knows as we wrap up?
Kind of shared a little bit of this already, but I'll dive a little deeper. It's just, as I said, there's nothing ever happening to you. It just happens as you are. And always know that, the thing is, always know everything's working for you. Always. I mean, it always is. And if you can't believe that, look back at your life. Look at the things that you've gone through, because you only can understand life when you look back and connect the dots. So when you're looking at that perspective, you can start to really see that, and then also have trust in the process. We live in a world today where we're so headstrong and so information based that we've lost the aspect of just trusting in this process rather than, no, I need to know what this is and the steps and this and all the logical stuff. And that is important. I'm not saying it isn't. Humanity wouldn't be where we are today without that. But at the same token, you lose out the beauty of life and the essence and the colorfulness of life and the joy of life and that little bit of uncertainty. And when you understand that everything's working for you, you can just sit back and see what's showing up in your life. And that will tell you, this is how the game's designed. It will tell you where you're at, where your focus is, where your vibe is. And then what do you need to shift and change to have a different reality?
Beautiful. And, it's so true. Our suffering comes from the trying to control and hanging on. So when we let that go, things get a whole lot easier for us. Where do we go to learn more about you and the great work you do?
You can find me at my website. That's my hub, empoweryourreality.com. I have free resources on there, like the power of visualization. You get a whole free ebook on there. I've got my podcast and things like that. I do coaching for business owners or startups. And then if you want to follow me on social media, it's in the bottom left corner. It's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Any questions, reach out. Love to hear from people.
Great. And we'll have all of the information in the show notes. Victor, I want to thank you so much for your time, for your attention, for your wisdom. I know you shared so much that our audience will really benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
As Dr. Victor said, everything happens not to you, but through you. So use each experience as an opportunity to learn and grow. Stay in touch with Dr. Victor by going to empoweryourreality.com, and we'll have all of his information in the show notes at thepbtinstitute.com/podcast. Here's my biggest takeaway. Trust the process and use these 3 strategies to change your thinking. 1, center the nervous system by breathing slow breaths in and out, which shifts your neurology and increases clarity. 2, try some cold water or a cold shower to change your state. It's a shock to your system and it gives your mind something new to think about. 3, get out in nature, journal, meditate, connect, and ground yourself by doing something you find calming and relaxing. It works.
Did you know that one of our certified PBT coaches within the PBT Institute specializes in mindset? All of our coaches have their own specialties like narcissism, divorce, reconciliation, growth, addiction, chronic pain, and more. We even have a brand new program called Reclaim that gives you a jump start with lots of sessions with our coaches, classes, community, and so much more. Don't stay stuck or in pain. Go to thepbtinstitute.com and let's get you feeling healthy, confident, and happy. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to be with you next time. And here's to your breakthrough.